Good evening, everyone, and welcome to Kidlit Live with me, Arden Jones. Tonight I have an author with me. Her name's Fiona Harding. She is an amazing picture book and chapter book writer, and I'm so excited to chat to her this evening. If you have any questions you'd like to ask while we're live, please pop them over via my YouTube channel, which is Arden Jones Author. Anything you ask via Twitter, unfortunately, I can't see by my restreaming service. So if you could just ask via YouTube, that would be amazing. Unfortunately, Facebook this evening isn't streaming. It's not connected to that, but generally everyone watches via YouTube and Twitter anyway. And tomorrow I will upload on Instagram. So let's get started. I'm going to bring on Fiona now. Let's all give her a warm welcome.
Hello.
Hi, Fiona.
Good evening.
Hello. Good evening. How are you? Enjoying the sun?
Yes, bit warm. I've got my little desk fan going next to me, so hopefully it won't sound too noisy on here. But it's been warm. It's been very warm.
Yes.
Yeah. What's it like in your writing zone there? Is it warm?
It's actually okay in here. It is during the day because the sun shines directly on it, but by now it's all shaded from trees on the other side, so it's pretty nice and cool in here. I haven't even got a window open and there's no fan, so we are all good. Yeah.
Very good. Yeah.
Yeah. So
I've got my own little office now, so I'm very, very pleased with myself. So
because you've recently moved.
Yes. Yeah. I've got the background all blurry because it's a bit of a mess. It's a bit of a mess. I've still got boxes to unpack. So yeah, but it's really nice having a little space just to myself to be able to write, because I used to write at the kitchen table, which is fine because I just got a laptop. But then when you're serving up tea and stuff, you've got to put it all away again, and you can't leave anything out. So and it's really nice to have a door that I can shut.
Are you finding that more inspiration having a room? Is it any different in your sort of attitude to writing?
I think it makes it easier to write because I think there's a dedicated space and I can just leave stuff out. And I think it's just really nice sitting at a desk rather than sitting at the kitchen table. I think there's something psychological about the fact that it always feels like the kitchen table. Rather than so when I come to my desk, I'm here to work. So yeah, it's really nice, and I feel very, very lucky. Despite the fact it's surrounded by boxes, you can't really see. But it is great having a desk all to myself. So yeah, I feel more ready to work, and I think it enables me to switch my brain onto, right, okay, I'm sat at my desk, I'm here to work. Yeah, it's good.
Yeah, no, I think it's really good. I tend to write wherever I don't have dedicated space. So I've got this room. This used to be my sewing room, which I very rarely sew now because I've just never have the time because I'm always writing or there's school things going on. It's constant. But yeah, I tend to, because I have to come out of the house to come in here, I tend to not.
Yeah.
So and it's Rob's like student music room down there. So when he's here and he's playing guitar, I can't concentrate anyway because I start listening to what he's doing. And so yeah, I tend to just work up the, I say kitchen table, it's in, we've got like a table in our living room. Our house is tiny, but yeah, so I end up doing it on there or sit on the sofa, or evenings bed. I'm a bed writer, so that's what I tend to do.
I tend to do sort of, it depends what I'm doing, I suppose. But I think so I've got like you, I expect lots of notebooks, and it's quite nice to go somewhere else to go and sit with a notebook rather than sit at a desk. I don't feel, if I'm coming up with ideas, I don't feel that sitting at a desk is the best place to do that. So I quite like a coffee shop. I quite like
I've still never done that. I feel like I have to
really?
try it. That's what writers do, isn't it? They sit in shops and write.
See, I quite like nosing in on what's people's conversations and things, but I quite like sitting in bed with a notebook and ideas and stuff. So yeah, I'd never sit at a desk and come up with ideas. Sitting at a desk or in front of your laptop is for bashing away at the keyboard and for editing and stuff. Yeah.
I love how different we all work. I just find
Yeah,
it amazing. Yeah, it's so
yeah.
good. But yeah, I just want to thank you so much for joining us tonight. I was really happy that you
Oh,
agreed to
thank
come on.
you.
Because I started this because I want to give writers and authors and people in publishing at all different stages of their career something to watch, reflect on, and something that might help inspire or and help others. Like, and just make it like so it's transparent. We can all access it. It's not just for people that have been published, and because I feel like, especially when you're querying, it's a really hard journey, and the writing community is so supportive. But when it
Yeah,
comes to like podcasts and things like that, you generally only get to speak to people that have already been published. And I think like we want to hear from everybody on all different types of their journeys, because we can all offer all different advice for that other people might have forgotten what it was like, because it could have been a long time ago, or just something that's not that person hasn't experienced. So I think just to bring on a range of different people, all different stages of their career, I thought would be a really good idea. So I'm really glad that you have joined me. So I think we'll start with our questions. And the question I always ask everyone, first off, is: have you always known that you wanted to be a writer?
no, and I think that's quite a reassuring thing for lots of people, because I wasn't one of those to hear that. I didn't always have an ambition to be a writer. I wasn't one of those children that was scribbling lots of ideas down and lots of stories in notebooks. And I didn't, like, was it Jill Murphy who did The Worst Witch? She wrote the first one when she was in her teenage years or
Did
something.
you? I didn't even
I
know that.
think so. I think she was
Wow.
really, really young. But I was always creative. I was always making up stories in my head, but not necessarily writing them down. And I've written in some form for a long time, because I worked in marketing and PR for years, for about 15 years. So I've always written, but writing for children is a new thing for me. But I've always been creative, always had a very probably overactive imagination, and now I've found an outlet for it, which is really good. And have written a lot, but never stories as in sort of fiction, and never for children. So this is something that's completely different. And it worried me to start with that I wasn't one of those people that had always had a burning desire to write for children. But I think that just means that we all come to it with different backgrounds, different ideas, and we all bring something unique. We can only write like we can, which is great. So no, I haven't always wanted to be a writer, but I definitely do now.
Yes, and well, I've read some of your stories, and you are a brilliant writer. So, I mean, we know that you write for children, but what particular genres do you write in, and why have you chosen those ones?
I tend to write things that I would want to read. So I like humour. It's probably the most difficult to write, because humour is so subjective, and one thing that you find funny, somebody would just turn somebody off. But I think I like humorous books. I like to read humorous books. So I like writing humour, sort of magical realism with a sort of light touch, really. So something that's just slightly off the wall, slightly different. And the chapter book that I've just written, the first one in the series, is a mystery, and I love reading mysteries myself. So I think it just naturally follows what I enjoy reading, really. So yeah, if I enjoy reading it, then it naturally flows that I enjoy writing it.
Yeah, yeah, I think, and it's what sort of has come out of a lot of the interviews that I've had with people. you write what you love, you write what you enjoy, and
Yeah.
that will come out and that will show, and that is really important. So, like, you know, you saying that as well, it just feels that this is such an important thing to do, rather than trying to write for a particular idea that might not have been something that you would really enjoy. I think it can be done, but I think your heart will really show when you're writing something that you enjoy. And I think, like, it's funny, like, really good what you said about the humor, because it's hard. I mean, writing is subjective anyway. We hear that saying all the time, but writing humor is, you've got another bound, like
Yeah.
another stepping stone there to climb over, because again, like you said, that's subjective, and everyone's humor is so different. You know, I
Yeah.
love a bit of slapstick humor, and just really silly, like Monty Python is my, like, go-to sort of humor. And but I also but it's hard, like, when it comes to books, I'd find that quite difficult to read. I like to watch it, but in books it's not something that I would overly be able to read on
Yeah.
with. I don't know why. It's yeah, it's really, really interesting. I think, writing humour. I did a writing humour course with Amy Sparks once, and that was so
Oh, did
helpful.
you? Yeah.
Yeah, she's so good, isn't she? As you know, because you've worked for her.
Yeah. Yeah.
But yes, I loved it. And you're a great person, and you've got a great sense of humour. So that comes
It's
across
a
in
bit
your life.
wild and wacky. There's one I've done
Yeah,
that I absolutely love, and I don't know whether you've seen it, but I know some of our critique group have seen it, and it's completely off the wall, and I really love the fact that it's off the wall, but it then divides opinion. So you either absolutely love it and get it, or it just, like, that's just too weird. And I love it because it's weird. But do you know what? I've heard so many times agents and publishers are wanting humor. They're always
yeah,
looking for humor, probably because it's so difficult to write. They probably don't get it as much as they probably would want to. So if you can write funny, yeah, always, yeah,
yeah,
there's always
yeah.
a
And
space for
kids
that.
love funny. So, like, I,
Yeah.
I, I mean, are there children out there that don't enjoy funny books? I don't. Maybe, but I think, you know, kids love. They
Yeah.
want to laugh. They want to have fun. It's what life is. They don't need to know all the serious. Well, they do. I mean, they need to learn about how to deal with things, obviously, but they also need that really important just place where they can just let go
Yeah.
and have fun. And it doesn't always, like, especially when it comes to picture books, it can just be a complete funny story with no message. No, it's just
Yeah.
something that you pick up, and you pick up time and time again, because it's going to make you laugh. And
Yeah.
that that will that's going to that will constantly be something that sells. I mean, I
Oh,
think,
yeah.
because
Yeah,
everyone
it
wants
will.
humour. Like, everyone loves to laugh. It makes you, it's happy. It's happiness, and that's what it is.
Yeah.
All in a book.
Yeah.
Um, so because you write picture books and chapter books, and I'd say recently, although, like, I feel like time has moved so fast, hasn't it? Like, I still feel like I saw that in the magazine, your part of your story. It was like, was it the last quarter it
Yeah.
come out?
Yeah,
Yeah,
it
and
did. So I started writing it September, and then I think was the deadline the end of September or beginning of October. So I hadn't got very long to write it. And then there's obviously stages. As you get through each stage, they ask for the next little bit and the next little bit. And I think the decision was made in January, and then obviously with printing, I think it came out March, was it? Yeah.
so,
The
yeah,
chapter.
so this
Yeah.
was the writing magazine, children's
Mm.
was the children's fiction competition, but yours was the chapter book part,
Yes. So
wasn't
they
it?
do
So there was,
picture
like,
book or chapter book. Yeah.
yeah. So it was the Writing Magazine Children's Chapter Book Prize, and your book, The Case of the Stolen Langdon Diamond, a Dolly Rape Mystery, come third. So that and actually got printed. Part of it got printed in
Yeah.
this magazine. So you started to tell us a little bit about that. I mean, obviously you only started writing it in September,
Mhm.
and that was you won. Basically, you won part come in within the prizes. So that was like, so you got to speak with someone about this, didn't you, as well? Or because of
Yeah, I
coming
think
third, it was the prize.
yeah,
Sorry.
so I think they've offered me a mini critique for it. I can't remember what first and second's prize was. But I think, like lots of competitions, it's not about the prize, it's about the recognition, actually.
Yes, yeah. I mean,
And
some people have enjoyed your book. It's the
I
best
know,
feeling.
I know.
Yeah.
It's so, so nice. And I read it to my daughter's class, actually, before I'd submitted it, but I hadn't found out that it had got longlisted at that point, and read it, and I could tell that they really enjoyed it. So that was really, really good. But so I started. Do you want me to talk about what happened?
Yes, yes.
Yeah,
So tell us about
tell us about it.
your story. So the story that comes there, but also tell us about how you entered, like how that process worked. If you just tell us a little bit about, because I think a lot of people enter competitions, but we kind of don't know how it all works. And you've got a little bit of inside knowledge there. But yeah, I'd love to hear
Yeah.
more
So
about Ronnie.
the story is about a character called Dolly Rake, and she is 13, and she works as a dresser in one of the West End theatres in London. In the 1920s. The story is about the missing Langdon diamond, and a case of mistaken identity and crime solving, just immersive in that 1920s theatre world. I don't want to give too much away, obviously.
I
But
can imagine all those lovely costumes that you're talking
yeah,
about
yeah,
in your book. It's so amazing.
yeah. So she's a dresser, so she deals with all the costumes and mending and making of them. I worked for years in theatre, so I combined my two, a world that I knew really, really well. So writing about the theatre world comes naturally because I worked in the theatre for years. So sprinkling in little bits about what things look like, and what equipment they are, and how people operate, and the relationships between people, and what the physical space looks like. I can just see it in my head because it's easy for me, because having worked in it. And I loved the 1920s. I did a history degree, so I absolutely love history. And I'd been on Amy Sparks's chapter book weekend, and I asked the question. I said, "Oh, could you do a chapter book on historical period, and how much historical information would you have to put in?" And she said, "Absolutely, you can. You'd probably just do it, as it's a chapter book, you'd probably just do it with a light touch, so that you'd sprinkle in little bits. You wouldn't have to do lots of historical research, and you wouldn't have to put lots of historical references into it, because it would just be too much." And I thought, oh, do you know what? I'd had this idea for a while. So that was the Sunday, the last day of the course, and I started it on the Monday. And I set myself the challenge of trying to write 1,000 words a day. And I plotted it all out, because I don't normally with picture books. Oh, that's your other question. I'm rushing ahead, but I plotted it all out, which is unusual for me, and it flowed really, really easily, and I really enjoyed writing it. But I'd got this idea that I was going to write it for the writing magazine prize, and that gave me an absolute deadline. I thought, right, you've got to do it by then. So it was a really good way of focusing my mind, because I thought I really want to do it, and if I don't do it by this point, it's not gonna get entered. So it gave me a really good deadline to work to, and I showed it to a friend of mine, Judy, and I said, "What do you think?" And she came back with some fab edits and a few steers and things that I could perhaps put this in or change that, and then just sent it and forgot about it, really, as you do. And I thought, well, if nothing else, I've really enjoyed writing it. I've really enjoyed writing it, and it's proved that I can write something longer than a picture book, because you get into picture book mode and it's always got to be less than 1,000. Mine tend to be near 1,000 rather than the other end needs to be the other end. And you get and it's 12 spreads, and you know, you get used to writing it in that way. And actually I felt it was really freeing, because I could write more and I could write description, which I really like writing, creating a sense of place. And then just sent it off and thought no more about it until had an email to say that it had been longlisted, which was like, oh my goodness, that's amazing.
Wow, that is amazing. So did you have it totally complete before you sent it off, or did you only have to send off like, or did you have to send off the whole lot, or like 1,000 words of it or something like that?
Sent off he sent the pitch synopsis and the first chapter, but you had to have had it completed before you sent it off. So then the next stage, once you'd got longlisted, was you sent the first 3 chapters, and then I got shortlisted, and then you send the whole thing. Yeah.
Wow.
And
So
then
like fingers shaking as you're pressing that button to
yeah,
send it over then.
yeah, you're checking it and making sure that so the new thing for me was about plot, absolutely about plot, and making sure there weren't any holes in it, because it was a mystery, making sure that I'd planted each little bit to make sure that it all tied up. I found that really tricky.
So is that why you plotted it? Because you knew that you was writing the mystery of it? Or do you think if it was a chapter book without the whole mystery side element of it, do you think you'd just totally pants that?
Interesting. I wanted to make sure. So what I did was I did a chapter by chapter breakdown, so that I knew what needed to happen by the end of each chapter. And that also gave me like the little cliffhanger and the little hook to go into the next chapter. I think because it was a mystery, and it sort of that means that you do have to put in little red herrings, and I think just the way it is, I think you have to absolutely get it spot on, otherwise it you know, sort of it opens up. But like in the first chapter, I noticed, like I'd done all of it and I'd edited it, and Judy had a look at it, and I thought, oh, we're okay. And then I realized something in chapter 1 needed to happen, because otherwise the whole thing just didn't work. And I'd read it, and then it was like, oh, okay, yeah, that needs to happen, because otherwise it doesn't work when you then go into chapter 2. So so absolutely, it has to be, for me, it has to be plotted out, not like to the letter, but just to know where I'm going and what needs to happen. And
Because I think you're absolutely right, because plot holes are obviously a definite no go. No one wants a plot hole, and I think, like you said, writing mystery is even more important, isn't it? But like, I find it really interesting then when you talk about like planting the red herrings. It sounds so exciting, but also just sends me like into a nerve frenzy, because I'm like, I could never do that. I find it's just so clever to be able to put these in there and make the reader believe that this is a possibility, this has happened. Although we also know it's not going to be, because we're not going to find out that early on, but you've still got that, oh, but what if it was this person, or what if this had happened? And to keep doing that throughout the book must have been so fun and hard all at the same time, I can imagine.
Yeah, I think the fact that I really enjoyed writing it really helped. It's interesting because I'm now working with Amy again on it, and she's told me to put in some more plot twists, even more plot twists and red herrings, and I've been going through it over the last few days, and what I've realised is that I need to do things one at a time. So do the punctuation edits and the grammar edits and the spelling edits and all those bits, and then do the bits about the relationships between two characters and bringing those out more, and doing it bit by bit rather than and going through the whole thing. So you do like the relationship bits and bringing the characters together, and go through the whole thing and do that. For me, that works. That's a far more methodical way of doing it, and it makes sense in my head. And then going through and going, okay, right, I need a red herring there. So I've got post-it notes all over it, going red herring here, red herring here, and so to do it that way, I think makes more sense for me.
Yeah.
Otherwise, I think I could just get really confused by, have I done it? Have I put that bit in? And I suppose my marketing and PR background, when I used to, sort of edit stuff, I love editing actually. So I've got, sort of big marks through everything, and I methodically go through everything and tick off that I've done it. And, I like that bit. I like editing.
I need your brain. That's. I mean, I do like editing. For the fact that it's like, especially when it comes to writing something longer, you can really just bulk out those bones that you've got down and really just add to that. And I love that. What I don't like is just reading it over and over and over and over and over and over again until I just feel like I can't look at this story anymore, and I can't see it anymore. It's totally.
Yeah.
I can't look. And I just need a break from it for a little while. So I do really enjoy the whole editing process. But I prefer it when it's not so at the moment, because I'm writing my novel. It's so long. It's just so much. Like when I'm looking at
Yeah.
like a chapter is like 2,000 words or something, and I'm just like, oh my, it's just so
Yeah.
much to do. But
Yeah.
yeah, I do absolutely love it. But we'll go back to talk a little bit about competitions, because there's so many competitions out there.
Yeah.
That I think not everybody even, like, we don't know all about them. There are hundreds and hundreds, and I think it is the Writing Magazine. They publish like a little booklet of all the
Oh
competitions
yeah,
that
they
they've got
do.
or that they
Yeah,
know
there's
of coming
loads.
up. And if you subscribe, they'll send that over to you. I do have it somewhere, but there are so many. So do you have any words of wisdom to give to those who are entering any writing competitions?
Just to go for it, really. So I've entered, because you never know. So I've entered the Writing Magazine competitions for a while now, and I was shortlisted a few years ago with a picture book of mine. And I was saying to Amy that I wrote it, and I really enjoyed, like, the chapter book. I wrote it, and really enjoyed writing it, but I've got no idea whether it would hit the mark or not. I think what competitions help with is giving you a deadline, because if you're writing and you're enjoying writing, it can go on forever, and you can keep editing it, and you can keep changing it, and you can keep trying to make it perfect. But if you've got a deadline, you're like, right, okay, I need to make it the best I can make it, and then I need to send it off. And it's a really good indicator of where your writing is, because quite often you'll see, if you don't get long listed or shortlisted, but you might see what has been, and it gives you an idea of what's of interest at the moment. But you might well get a little bit of feedback, and that's so useful actually, because if you haven't had any before, and having critiques can be expensive, especially if you're doing a long piece. But just giving you a little steer, saying, oh, actually, like on my picture book, one of the things they said was that the ending just felt a little bit flat. So the story had built and built and built, and then it just went a bit ooh, and it hadn't occurred to me. So sometimes if you're longlisted or shortlisted, and certainly if you're placed, you'll get some feedback, and that's really, really useful. Just getting but I think it just gets you used to writing to a deadline, and just having a go. It's the first thing I started doing as a writer when I was writing picture books, and then doing chapter books. So yeah, they're brilliant. I love, and you quite often you might meet other people online. Twitter's a great place to meet people, and if doing competitions and sharing information. But there's a lot more out there now than there was when I started doing them about 7 years ago. So it's great. There's far more out there.
Yeah, it definitely is. Like especially within the whole children's writing. So you mentioned like Twitter there. You spoke about that with Amy Sparks. Is there any other like resources or courses that you've done or that you would recommend that's helped you to learn more about writing for children?
Yeah, loads actually. Because I've been doing it a while now, so I've picked up lots of bits and pieces. So we did Golden Egg, and that's where we met our fabulous Bold and Gold group. Shout out for them.
Yeah,
and for me, that was a complete game changer. Game
absolutely.
changer for me, because it was a group of supportive, just lovely people
Super dedicated.
who are all in the same place as you are, who
Yeah,
will always read something last minute and give advice, and that was as I say, game changing for me, doing that. Right Mentor recently joined, loved their videos, and I did the pitch hero, was it, the other
is it
week?
the Pitch Hero? And they
Yeah,
with the kind of live one over the couple
yeah,
of days. Yeah,
did
that was
that
so
one.
good, was it? Oh, I mean, obviously, I'm not entering that, but I was like watching that and
No,
like supporting people on it. It was, yeah, them pictures
that's
were
such a
amazing.
yeah, really good skill actually
Yeah,
to learn. And then
pictures.
so I run creative writing workshops for 8 to 11-year-olds through Writing West Midlands. I think there's a Writing East Midlands. They've been super supportive, really, really lovely. With any advice that and questions that I've got. What else? There's a chap called Pi Corbett, Talk for Writing. He's got some really
Okay, I'm just gonna
interesting.
write that down.
Now he works in schools, but he's got some really interesting information and free information. He does
Okay,
courses as well, but his newsletters are really good. Obviously, Amy Sparks, she's just amazing. She does the most
is.
fantastic courses,
Yeah, she's the
and
most supportive person, and she
she's
does
just amazing.
so much. She's there's so many courses that she
Yeah,
offers. And it's not just like I'll write a chapter book or I'll write a picture book. It's like finding your voice, writing
yeah,
humour. It's just she just delves into what makes that book, and you can pick like what you want to learn about writing that particular part of writing that story. And I think that's so important because like I think is there one at the moment, like a dialogue writing
yeah.
one,
I'm doing that one
uh,
actually. Yeah,
and it's like that people like we struggle because we
yeah,
tend to write how we talk, but that's not how you write dialogue. Like
yeah,
there's
yeah,
there's so much
yeah,
more to think about, and we just think, oh, we just want to learn how to write a book. But yeah, there's all these little things, and
yeah.
Amy's courses are amazing, and she's supportive, and they're so reasonably priced as
Oh
well,
yeah, they're
aren't
brilliant.
they? It's
They're
just
really good,
amazing. There's
really
so many
good.
expensive courses out there,
Yeah,
and but Amy's a you learn so much with a group of
yeah.
amazing people, with an amazing author of Amy, who how she does all this, I don't know.
I
She's
don't
like
know.
she's a superwoman.
Yeah.
Well, she's the story godmother, isn't she? She can
Yeah.
just, she's obviously magic. She has the magic.
Yeah.
But
She's
yeah,
brilliant.
she she's amazing.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Lou Trevelyan, she does a brilliant website and newsletter.
Also
So
lovely in person. I met her
oh, is
recently.
she? I've
She
never
was
met
so
her.
nice. Yeah, we got on so
Yeah.
well. Spent the whole
She's
day
got
together at the London Book Fair, so it was really,
oh,
really nice.
okay. Yeah, she's got some great information, really
Great.
good.
The list of all the agents that are accepting submissions, publishers that are accepting
Yeah,
submissions.
she
Yeah, and
does.
she does a
Yeah.
Tuesdays tips thing now on Twitter, and I think it's on Instagram as
Ah,
well. So every Tuesday she'll write a little writing tip, and that's really good.
yeah. Amy does Wednesday writing tips as well
Yes,
on Twitter.
yes.
Yeah.
Twitter
I've
is so good. Everyone needs to
yeah.
join Twitter if
Twitter
they want to
Twitter's
write.
my place for writing. Twitter's my place for writing. It's brilliant.
Yeah,
Writing magazine's really good actually, for lots of exercises, like writing exercises and industry information, articles. They're really good, and there's lots of stuff online. There's a newsletter. Mislexia is a really lovely publication for women writing. That's really nice, and always really inspiring. And then I'm a member of NAWE, which is National Association of Writers in Education, and they've
okay.
got lots of information. So yeah, quite a few. You pick up things as you go along and find what works for you. But there's so much information out there, which is great. Just deciding what's right for you.
Yeah, absolutely. So everyone listening, just check out all everything that Fiona's just said. Have a little Google, because you'll find some amazing places and things that are right for you that you can just either go straight onto now or something that might be you might think about you want to do in the future. I think that's some really good places and ideas there, Fiona. So we'll talk a little bit about you're currently querying at the moment, aren't you? You're sending out some queries. How's your journey been so far? How are you finding it?
Long. um, as anybody will probably say, there's always an exception to the rule. The person that gets lucky and gets a mega deal with their first book that they write. But actually, I think about what my writing was like when I first started writing for children, and then first started submitting, and it wasn't ready. It wasn't good enough. And actually, I've learned so much in the last 7 years, and that's all been every little bit that I've learned, even though it's not got me to where I want to be at this stage. It's like money in the bank. It's stuff that I'm learning my craft, and it's all useful, and it all just helps that little bit further. And I remember listening to somebody who said, you must always remember that wherever you are, there's somebody who's a bit further behind that will look at where you are and think, I wish I was there. So actually
That's
appreciate where you are and where you've got to.
Yeah, yeah.
Um,
That's I think that's a really good way of looking at it, because I think it's hard. It's a hard
yeah,
journey, and I think it's you know probably always hard. Even we all want to get this amazing deal, or we all want to just. I mean, I'd be happy for just one book. I'd be happy to hold it in my hands, like but that it doesn't stop there. This journey is
no,
writing is hard. The journey is hard. The querying is hard.
yeah,
This going on submission is hard. And then you have to write another book. And if that first book sells really well, you've got a lot to live up to. It's always going to be hard. But for what you said is that there's someone there just going, I wish I was at that point.
yeah,
We do need to feel lucky that we're moving forward in our journey and we're learning a lot, and everything that you have learned and we all learn, we use, even without realizing, we'll use that in our
yeah,
future writings that we might
yeah,
not have even realized. Thought, oh, that resonates, but might not even that resonate with us at then, but later on it might. And I, I love that what you said. I think it's really inspiring. So
yeah.
Thank you. That's a really lovely thing to
Yeah.
share, and I think something that I'll take with me for sure.
Yeah,
Um,
because just recognize all that you've achieved, because whatever you've done is never wasted. It's never wasted. It's there in the bank, ready
yeah,
to pull out, and it just makes your writing better and deeper and all the rest of it. So yeah, so it is hard. You've got to enjoy the process, because if you don't enjoy the process, it's not for you. So you've got to enjoy writing and
yeah.
just keep plugging at it. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. But another good thing that comes with writing, especially writing for children, are school visits. And I know that you are
Mm.
amazing at those. You helped me so much when I first started going into
Oh,
nurseries to read my story, one of my stories. And I know it's something that so many of us worry about. It's really intimidating going into that place. You're reading directly or like virtually, but you can see lots of people watching you. You've got to
yeah.
inspire them, you've got to keep them interested. Um, and I think if I hadn't have spoken to you and you hadn't given me all that advice, I don't think my visits would have gone as well as what they did. So I thank you.
Oh,
So amazing. Um, so I think I'm just going to hand this over to you and just let you tell us give us these amazing tips that you
okay.
gave, because they are
Okay.
so amazing, and I keep saying amazing because they're amazing.
Oh,
And yeah,
that's really kind.
we because you can go in to do school visits whether you're published or you're not published, and
Yeah.
I think it's something that we all go, well, no, we haven't got an actual physical book, but
Yeah.
tell us about that, because
Yeah.
you can still do it.
I worried about that a lot, actually. I thought, well, I haven't got anything to show. I'm not there going, look, this is my book and these are the pictures and all the rest of it. And a friend asked me to come and read for their nursery group. And I said, okay, I'll pick a book and come and read. And she said, no, I want you to read your stories. And I'm like, oh gosh, I can't. And that first time I did it, I felt so sick. I felt really. I was in the car park, and I had to build up to it. And I go, you can do it, Fiona. You can do it. You can do it. You can do it. You can do it. And bear in mind, this is a preschool group, so this is the under fives. But I was absolutely terrified. But what you feel inside is not necessarily what's projected. So you might feel like that swan, with your feet, paddling desperately underneath the water. But actually, if you want to do your best and you're interested and you want to share your stories, that will come across. And actually, all the groups that I've been in, they've all been really lovely and have wanted to listen to what I'm saying, because actually it's really special being a writer, and you go in and you meet these children, from little ones to bigger ones, and they're like, oh my goodness, you actually write stories, you write books. And you're like, yes. And it's a really special thing. So actually take that on board and acknowledge that. But yeah, I was really scared, but I've got better at it. I still get nervous, and I don't think that's a bad thing, because actually then I think you're doing your best. You're not taking it for granted, and you're giving your best, because they deserve for you to do your best on the day. But they are just so impressed by the fact that you are a writer. So you've already ticked loads of boxes in their eyes. So I got some, and I talked to you about these, didn't I, when we had our chat a while ago. So sort of hints and tips that I've learnt, because yeah, it was a bit trial and error, but that's fine. So shall I just read? Shall I read my hints and tips?
Yes.
Okay, so I found being prepared really important. So make sure that it sounds like a simple thing, but read your story lots of times. and you might then edit it and you think, oh no, actually reading it out loud, I need to take that out or move that round.
I think that's a great tip for writing your
Yeah,
story,
yeah, read
regardless, isn't it? Read it out loud, because when you do read it out loud, you hear it differently to how
yeah,
you read it when you're just reading it in your head. So great
absolutely
tip
you
all
do.
round.
Absolutely you do. What I do is I highlight parts of the story to either ask questions, perhaps as you're going along. Might be, can you guess what's going to happen next? Or why do you think they did that? Or what do you think it looks like? Or possibly for, and these are always really fun, actions or noises. They love whoever it is. And they're likely to be, if you're going in to read stories, it's likely to be either preschool or primary school. They love an action or a noise. So anything they can get involved with, that's always a plus. Something to look at. Now, because I'm not very good at memorizing my stories, so I always have to have them written down as a prompt. So what I do is I put it in a folder, and so I can read the pages. What I started doing at the beginning was I had the folder and I had all my props, and it was really complicated because I'd be then doing a prop and I'd get in the book and I'd get all flustered. So what I do now is I've got all my pages written out so I can refer to them as I read the story. But I have a PowerPoint behind me. This is in classes, in schools, just so that the children have got something visual to look at. Or I might get the teacher involved with props, get somebody else to
They're
help.
always going to enjoy watching one of their adults being silly.
Yeah. So I had one about it was a postman, and I had a little bag, and each time the postman dropped something, that was the premise of the story, the teacher pulled out something else out of the hat. So yes, something to look at, which is really important. Don't try and do too much. Keep it, if you're feeling a bit panicky, just keep it nice and simple. Simple is always better. Ask the children when you go in. This is like something that is so obvious to me, but something I didn't do. Make sure you say who you are. My name's Fiona. I'm a writer. I write children's stories. I've written you a story today, or I've written a story that I'm going to tell you about today. And it's all about dinosaurs. And then you say, who likes dinosaurs? So you get the children involved right at the beginning and ask questions. So you've sort of set the scene, but make sure you say hello and who you are, because I didn't. I was so nervous. I didn't. Wear something really, I said this to you, didn't I? Wear something bright and colourful. It doesn't need to
I've
be.
not stopped since, to be honest.
You look
I'm like,
amazing.
well, I'm a children's writer. I need to wear patterns and colours and
because
bright pink.
they wear something that, and it will make you feel good. You don't, some people dress up in like full costume and everything.
Definitely would. If I'd had a costume with that story, I definitely would have. I ended up looking like a children's entertainer in my dungarees and rainbow top underneath. I could have been in like High Five or the Wiggles or something.
Yeah, brilliant. Fab. And if that makes you feel, and you feel confident doing that, absolutely amazing. They would just be like, we had this writer in and she dressed up and she just looked amazing and she got this costume on, and that's it. That for them, winner.
You want to stick in their memory, and if you're wearing something bright, it will just stand out, and it will be something that could trigger a little memory as then one, even just as they're getting older, and they go, oh, I remember that teacher, she had like a rainbow top, like, oh
yeah, and it makes you feel good. And it almost feels like you're putting on a uniform or a costume for a part. I always think of it as performing, and you are to a certain extent. So wearing something bright is always a good one. Agree with the school, whoever it is, beforehand what they're expecting and what you're prepared to do.
Yes, I've heard some terrible stories, like
Yeah,
authors going in and they've just been left there to basically look
yeah,
after the children. Like,
yeah,
what?
yeah.
It's insane.
That's one of my points, actually. Ask a teacher to be present at all times and be engaged. You're not there as a teacher replacement. And I think it was the Society of Authors, I'm sure, did like a schools guide for writer visits. And I've
Oh, have
basically,
they? That's really
I'm
good.
sure, and I Googled it
I
today,
think they probably would have. That's a really good tip. I'll look that up as well.
just to give you a bit of a steer. So I've now adapted it for me, and just so that everybody is clear, this is what I've agreed to, and this is what will what will happen. I've got professional indemnity insurance through NAWE. So I think that's really important if you're serious about doing them, and you do quite a few, just to protect you and also show that wherever you're going, that you're serious about it, you're a professional. And it
Yes,
just
would that,
covers.
as
Yeah,
just for others that are listening, would that also include, like, is that basically like public liability insurance? So if anything happens or a
yeah,
child might get hurt by one of your props or something like that, you're
yeah,
protected. Yeah.
yeah. So I think that's a really good thing to do. And things like, so in no particular order, these are things that just came to my head. Things like checking travel and parking, like the nitty gritty, to make sure that you can, how you're getting there, where you're parking, where your train's going in, how far it is, so that on the day you don't have to think about that. All you can think about is just going in and having a great time. I quite like to do act out my stories with the group. If you've got like a smaller group, I don't know whether you did that with yours. You act out the story again.
I did it with my daughter Willow, and she was quite engaged with it, considering she'd heard that story a million times. But actually, hearing that story with props and me putting on this whole show was like a little mini pantomime, and she
Yeah,
sat there and got involved, and it went really well. And I was like, okay, maybe I could do this. And her attention span is like is basically non-existent. So I was like, yeah, I think I can do this. So
yeah,
that tip was really helpful. So I run it. I've done that a couple of times with Willow, who then wasn't overly interested after that. A couple of times. She's like, yeah, I've seen this now. And then I actually done it in her nursery. But then she was interested because it's mummy's
yeah,
here. So that
yeah,
was really
yeah,
sweet. But then I just did it in front of a mirror,
yeah.
so
That's a
I
good
could
one.
see what it looked like, what I looked like, pulling my
Yeah,
silly faces and just going, yeah, that's silly enough. I can, because you can't be unless it's a very serious visit. You generally got to be a bit silly and
yeah. And
playful with the kids.
they love that. They love that because they can see that you're enjoying it.
Yeah,
The mirror's a great one, actually, because you suddenly realize that you might do a certain thing, like often. I don't know, you might have like fiddle with your hair a lot, or you might I don't know, pull well, I say funny face, or you might you just very, it makes you think about how you present yourself.
yeah.
And I don't think that's a bad thing, but don't
That is
don't
a
do
good
it
thing
too
because
much.
you can use that with. So I where was it? I'd learned it somewhere. Someone had said it was a great tip. Watch people, look at yourself, talk to yourself, do a video recording of yourself. Oh, I think it was Adrian Dines. She's amazing, and she was like, just record yourself telling a story. Look at the way like your face is moving, and use that as
Yeah,
building characters and stuff.
yeah.
Like, and since doing this, I noticed this is what I do when I'm talking to people. So everyone's going to notice it now. So I'm like constantly trying to pull my hands down, stop fidgeting with my chin. Like,
Yeah,
but so it's really funny that you brought that up because, yeah, now
yeah,
I can see myself more and
yeah,
definitely notice I do some
yeah,
different things. So, and it's really good. Definitely, if you're going into places and you're like, okay, yeah, I definitely do this a lot, so I need to.
yeah.
Well, you don't need to. You can be yourself, but also it's something just to be aware of
Just
how
to
you're
be aware
being.
of, yeah, yeah, and always speak slower than you think you should, because if you're nervous, you're going to speak quicker,
Yeah,
and time it as well. so that you know how long it is. So if you've got 20 minutes, especially with really little ones, 20 minutes is probably about tops before they get a bit shuffly. But if you've read your story in 3, you've then got 17 minutes to fill. So time it just so that you've got an idea of how long it takes to read it, so that you want to plan other stuff around it. But yeah, read slowly, read slower than you think. Practice it with somebody else. So my husband has listened to more than he probably would want to. Practice it in front of him. And then you might want to think about, can you extend your visit and do like a little creative writing exercise with classes, because budgets are really stretched. So if you can do a little bit, doesn't have to be anything complicated, but you've read your story, you've acted it out, you've engaged with the children, can they do, this is with smaller groups, can they do a little writing exercise or something? And my last one is take snacks. It's very tiring.
Yes, is that for like when you're doing like a very long full
Yeah,
day
when you're doing
yeah,
it, or make sure that
a
you've got
few
something
hours.
to, you'll find that you're exhausted. Yeah, which is a bit exhilarated. And I have to say that when you first see children reacting to the words that you've written as a story, there is nothing like it. It's just amazing, and it's the best feeling in the world. And it's just wonderful, and I would encourage anybody to go out and do it, because schools, especially if you've got a connection with them, perhaps if your children go, they will always welcome you. And it's a brilliant way of seeing whether your stories work, because loads of mine got chopped because they were too long. Yeah.
I mean, it's hard, but those tips are amazing. I would also say give out stickers. A little tip for me, they love a sticker at the end. So if you get any stickers that are like relevant to your story, like, so you done like a Queen's handbag one, didn't you? So I suppose you could just like
that was really
Queen's
good.
stickers in and stuff. I just realised we've been talking now. We're on 57 minutes,
Sorry.
so no, don't say sorry. It's been great. But we'll do. So the last question is, what's next? What's next for Fiona? Any new stories coming? You writing at the moment?
I am writing the next story in the Dolly Rake series. So I've got planned out about 6 or 7.
Wow, that's amazing.
Editing the first one with Amy Sparks, and sending that out to agents, but really enjoying that. And then I've got a few ideas for some more chapter books. So I'm really enjoying chapter books at the moment. And I think there's a big opportunity for those in the industry. So that's where I'm focusing at the moment.
Yeah. I think there definitely is. When you look at like some like competitions and they accept like a wide range, and then they'll feedback on how many books they've had for each particular genre. Chapter books is always the smallest. Like picture books are huge, YA is huge, and then like middle grade is huge, but probably smaller than than picture books, and then chapter books are teeny tiny. So it just shows you there's less people writing chapter books, which makes me think there's more chance that we need them more. I do know that a lot of chapter books are written in house as well, but I think they are still wanted, and I think these prizes and these competitions are proving that. But yeah, I think this has been absolutely amazing. It's been so lovely to talk to you. I hope you've enjoyed it too. I'm so glad that you came on. And
thank you for asking me. I've loved it.
And just I wish you all the best, and just keep going. We chat anyway, but always just send me stuff if you want me to have a look. So yeah, it's been really lovely to have you on, and hopefully you'll be able to join us again soon with some news and some updates, and that would be amazing.
Yeah, brilliant. Fingers crossed. But thank you so much. I've loved chatting.
Yeah, thanks so much, Fee. I'll see you later.
Bye.
Bye. Oh, that was so great to talk to Fiona. Yeah, so I hope everybody's enjoyed it. She's given out some great tips and some great advice. And so next week on Kidlit Live, I am joined by author illustrator Lisa Bentley, and in May she released her picture book, The Dreams We Made. So I'm really excited to talk to her. It's a last minute change. I was due to have Sarah Massini join us, but unfortunately we've had to reschedule that one. But I'm so excited to have Lisa with us. So stay tuned and join us next week.